Good evening. Welcome back to Matchday Live. Half-time at the Etihad Stadium. That is not a result that any of us wanted to see. It's Manchester City 0, Tottenham 2. Kind of all came in those last 5 minutes. We're going to dig into that right now. Before we come to the goals, though, Paul, just before those last 5 minutes, it was a bit of a strange half anyway, I felt. It was a bit kind of bitty, a bit stop-start. What were you making of it before the goals?
Yeah, I thought the first 20, 25 minutes especially, Tottenham came with a game plan and that was to upset our rhythm. They were giving away fouls. Professionally, I've got to say some good fouls, because we were looking as if we were breaking in between the lines. And it was a bit stop-start at times. Then once we got in our stride, Rico Lewis's great shot, well saved by Lloris. Then Erling's had two good chances, one that's well blocked, the other one was just a little bit high in his header. They're big moments in games because a couple of minutes later, Tottenham break and score.
Yeah, they do break and score, Michael, and we know you never want to concede, but I mean to concede 2 goals like that at that point in the game, it's very difficult and tough to take.
Well, it's tough, isn't it? And you understand the process of playing out, of build up and coming out. But when you're getting towards the end of the first half, you've got to be sure when you play that ball into the midfield player that he's not under enough pressure. The safe side, it's actually the side of the press, but actually you probably think, well, if it's the opposite side, he can come out and take it away, and that short pass puts you under pressure. Kulusevski's just in behind, and ultimately, as we said, with that quality that he has on that left foot, the finish is going to be on point, it's going to be very, very close, and that's the disappointing thing. Just as City had some great opportunities, I felt Spurs were coming into it more, getting more space. They had a spell of keeping City in, but not really creating too much. But again, you've got to take your chances and not give mistakes away. At this level, those mistakes are really damaging. Yeah, and those mistakes, they've kind of been creeping in a little bit, and they were on show there tonight. I mean, you alluded to the goal there. I mean, really, you're looking at Ederson for that first goal, and could you talk us through it for those at home, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the goalkeeper, it's just even if you're an outfield player, if you can see where Rodri is, just see if Rodri's central, the defender or the midfield players to one side, you play it to the opposite side. He doesn't. He actually plays it to the side where the Tottenham player is. So of course, any slight misjudgment of pass, they're going to capitalise on, which they do. It's just the same as if I'm playing centre half and I'm playing with Browne. If he's got a man right behind him, I'll just play it short so he can come on to, and vice versa. If the defender's either side or the midfield players either side, you play it to that opposite side.
Yes.
Ederson doesn't do that, so of course it's caused problems, and it falls to. Is it Kulusevski?
Yeah.
And he's got a great left foot, and he's not going to miss from there. I mean, both the goals really have come about with 2 players with Ederson and Rodri, because the second one, Kane, it's running away from him. I think what Rodri's trying to do is trying to win the ball or just get a goal kick. He's really got to go through that challenge, and whatever it is, whether it's a goal kick, whether it's a corner, at least it's not in danger.
Yeah.
But as he tries to shepherd it out, obviously Kane does really well and scoops it, hits the shot, which is parried by Ederson, and obviously the ball's headed in. But listen, disappointing as Dickie was sort of saying, though, we had some decent players, some half chances. Erling Haaland had a header which he gets a little bit too much on. Obviously, Lewis has that shot which takes a deflection. But Tottenham come out the first half and they basically come out from under Conte is upset them, get into them, foul them. And that's what they did. I think the referee, could have maybe getting on top of 1 or 2 of the Tottenham players earlier, but is that me being a little bit biased? Possibly. But at the same time, they'll be going in there, the Tottenham players, and they've done a fantastic job as far as they're concerned. I think Pep's just got to get in there and talk to the players, and they've just got to come out and they've got to hit them with both barrels, really, because they need a nice early goal, and then, eventually, hopefully, the pressure can count, because we've seen in the first half the amount of corners that we had. What was it, 8, 9, something like that, corners? Didn't create a great deal from it, but there's obviously some positives, but there's a lot to work on. Yeah,
lots to work on, and it's difficult, and I think, summed up brilliantly there, Steve. How many times do we see that it's kind of City are the architects of their own downfall, Paul, isn't it? I wouldn't say it's any, Tottenham have come out and blown us away. It does seem to be that we're our own worst enemy.
It is, but it's the risk and reward side of it, isn't it? We've all, especially since Pep's been here, we've watched some of the best football I've ever seen, and when you do play the way we play, there's always a small chance that you're going to make mistakes. It happens all the time, everywhere. And it was, but the amount of times Ederson's came out and created goals for us from the passing out the back, but that's where it starts. So if you're going to play that way, you've got to expect sometimes that there's going to be little bits of mistakes in there. But you know what? I've sat here many a time and watched this team being 2-0 down at half-time, and still came back and won the game. You know, the quality's out there on the pitch, and the quality's there on the bench for us to get back into it.
Speaking of that bench, Brownie, how important do you think that is going to be in the next 45 minutes? Because we know it's a massive second half now. I mean, to try and get, a point, but maybe even try and get the 3 points.
I think the bench is always important for Manchester City, Pep Guardiola. When you've got those players, does it make you change your decision a little bit earlier? And sometimes you have when you've got such a big choice of variety on there. So, listen, there wasn't huge amounts of wrong with that first half. The point is the mistakes and then the goal coming so quickly afterwards. You've got to take your chances as well. There's been some good, saving challenges. The Jack Grealish run going through, things can be so different. Good recovery tackle from Romero. So they've been in a good situation, City, but ultimately you've got to put the ball in the net and just be careful on the counter. We said straight away, when they get the space and growing confidence this side, they'll put you under a little bit more pressure. They've pressed the more aggressive, I thought, Spurs today than I expected them to.
Yes.
I thought they'd sit back off it slightly and let City come forward, and maybe that shocked City. But this is where Pep Guardiola's amazing. He understands the differences, understands where he's got to go. But again, it has to be in a controlled manner. You go and do this too quick against them, they can counter again. So it's just that balance, grind them down, and obviously, the talent on the bench can come forward.
You know, from a forwards point of view, I want to see Erling and Alvarez do exactly what they've been doing.
Yes.
And making the runs in behind. Erling Haaland's made 5 or 6 unbelievable runs off the shoulder of the centre halves. And he's keeps doing it, and that's where he got his chance from when Lloris came out and saved it. Alvarez has made some great runs in between the wing back and the left sided centre half as well.
So, ball from Aki for him was brilliant, wasn't it? That great run. Do you think? Why do you think his touch? Do you think Hugo Lloris just caught his line? For his touch, it was quite high, but he sort of went safe side. And I thought maybe if Lloris had stayed, he might have just let it open slightly, and then the touch was behind.
I think the way he was running and the way that was a great ball. But that was the only thing he could have done with his touch.
Maybe. I mean, it's high as well, isn't it?
You've got to give Lloris credit as well for the save as well. Because as soon as he took his touch, he's read it and he's went out there and he's closed them down. But as long as they keep making their runs and stretching Tottenham a little bit that way, we'll get chances.
There's always a chance.
I think there's, obviously there's been a lot said about Erling Haaland and the team and how they play and stuff like that. I specifically watched them for the first half an hour, just seeing what actually Erling Haaland does off the ball. And we were talking, me and Dickie were talking, his runs are absolutely brilliant. And they're a nightmare for defenders because he's always wanting to threaten in there, and then because he wants to threaten there, then he can get the ball to feet. So the runs are there. It's just unfortunate we haven't been in a position to actually to pick him out. But listen, I don't think there's any need to panic. As we've said, City's been in this position before and come back. The next goal's a big goal. Because obviously if Tottenham get it, then the most you can hope for is possibly a draw, in my opinion. But listen, there's 45 minutes to go. As I said, as we've said, I don't think there was a great deal wrong with that first half. It was just a case of, in all fairness, Tottenham were quite resilient and did well on the counter attack, upset the City players by being quite aggressive. But we've got 45 minutes plus, so there's a lot to do, but I'm not completely convinced that it's all over yet.
Yeah, I feel the same as well, to be honest with you. And as we know, as we've seen the quality from those boys in blue, I just wanted to ask, and this might be unfair of me, Paul, with that second goal, it was a little bit reminiscent, and the derby was a whole different thing, of conceding a goal. It came as a bit of a shock, and then before you know it, they had the ball again up near our defence and the ball in the back of the net. It felt like a bit of a similar thing. Do you think there is something in that, maybe just going, if a goal goes in, get your heads back in the game?
Well, you've got to at any level. That's what you're always told, isn't it? But especially leading into half-time, the players are probably thinking, right, let's get in at half-time at 1-0.
Yes.
And let's get it sorted out. Before you know it, you can't afford, especially in the Premier League against quality opposition, to take your eye off the ball for 1 second or lose your concentration. And Steve is bang on. Rodri's been unbelievable, don't get me wrong, but I think he could have went in a little bit more stronger in the tackle. See what he's trying to do, maybe hit it off Kane or get the goal kick, but just before half-time against a Tottenham team.
He's still a bit unlucky. Do I know you say you want him to be really strong, but Kane slides through it. I'm not sure you'd expect it.
If you commit, if you commit properly, you get the ball.
The ball goes through. I mean, we were speaking about the bench, and we've said, I think Julian and Erling seem to have been working quite well together. Kevin De Bruyne on the bench. I'm sure he might be licking his lips, Brownie, at
Okay, then.
coming on.
If you insist. Bring him on. If you want to do it now.
That would be the time.
No, but listen, the key point is we don't understand why Kevin De Bruyne is, he might have a slight problem. He might only want to use him a bit later. He might only be able to do a set amount of minutes. We don't fully know, do we? But listen, if Kevin De Bruyne can get on the pitch, he's going to open up. He's going to deliver great balls as usual. So that'll be one change I'm sure Pep Guardiola will be looking to do. But listen, there weren't. You sat here at 2-0, and then you're saying, well, it was right at the end of the half. So you've got to be careful that you don't put all of that away. There was certainly good things in that first half against the Spurs side who are dangerous. We know that. We've said that about them. And they'll be right up for this game. They realise they're right on problem time with where they're going and the manager, etc. So it was a big one for them. But I just think, City scored against Spurs. Every chance we can see a really, really fantastic second half.
Yeah, how key is that early first goal, Steve?
Well, it's massively key. I mean, what they have got to do is they've got to make sure they keep it nice and tight at the back.
Yeah.
I don't think you can give them any encouragement to try and get a third. And as I said, Pep, what Pep's team talks are like before and during the game at half-time. He'd be making sure that the lads is fully focused, and if they can get an early goal, as we've seen here so many times, not just here but away from home as well, where they've been in a similar position and they've managed to come out on top. So it is the next one, and as I said, if they can get it early doors, then we could be in for a very open, exciting second half.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Well, we'll be bringing you that through our commentary with Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison. Then we'll be reflecting on that second half right here on Matchday Live. Not the score that any of us wanted. Predictions well out the window, but let's hope that City come back out here and 3 goals to the good, no more from them, and it'll be 3 points in the bag. Come join us at full time. Remember, Alistair Mann and Andy Morrison have got your commentary on the City app, and I'll see you after the game. Come on, City.
Welcome back to the Etihad Stadium at the start of the second half. Well, I say the start, at the moment we've got no players out, but the ground staff are all out with the forks, just replacing all the